Hello, Marooners rock. It's, as always, where to geek out would be a wonderful adventure. And with me is J. Michael Tatum. I'm afraid I might be ruining your last name there.
No, actually, get it right. Goodness, everyone messes it up. That's awesome. Good for you.
Who is a voice actor.
Yes.
And I guess first question I should ask is just a quick list of roles that people may have heard you in.
Oh my God, let's see a quick list. Hang on. Okay, Kyoya in Oran High School Host Club. Sebastian Michaelis in Black Velvet, that's a big one. France and Italia. I'm currently in Attack on Titan as Irvin and big blonde guy. And God, there's millions of people who are like, what about this? I'm like, Space Dandy. I'm the baddie in Space Dandy, the big space gorilla, Dr. Gel. So I'm all over the place. I'm also Sir Hammerlock of Borderlands 2, and I'm pretty good in the kitchen. That last one is a total lie, by the way, but the rest of it's true.
Well, I'm pretty sure if people have their little bingo cards of anime roles, they probably at least filled one line.
They're like, oh, wait, he didn't say Lawrence.
Okay, so I guess one big question I think a lot of people have is, how did you get into voice acting?
I was tricked into it. It's true. Okay, I'll try to tell the shorter version of the story as I can because it gets a long story. I was an actor when I was very young. I kind of grew up on the stage doing all sorts of, that kind of acting, and which was great. But I decided not to make a career of it. I kind of went to college for other things, and those other things were terribly boring, and it was a bad decision. It was a bad decision on my part. And acting found me again about 10 years later when a friend of mine, Chris Beckins, who works at Funimation, has for years now as a director and an actor and a writer. I knew him, we kind of ran in the same circles, and we were both kind of comic book geeks together. We became friends. And after I'd known for a couple of years, he just sort of asked me out of the blue one day, hey, do you want to come in and try out for this part on this show called Samurai 7? It's based on the Kurosawa film Seven Samurai. Are you familiar with it? I'm like, one of my favorite movies of all time. What are you getting at here? And he kind of sold me on the side. He's like, I think you should come in and audition. And what the hell? I know you haven't really done any voice acting before, but you have an acting background, which I'm just looking for some new people. So I politely refused because I was terrified at the idea. I'd acted in over like a decade at the time, so I was terrified, and I just kept finding the lamest excuses for not answering the call to audition. I was like, oh, I can't. That's so cool of you, man, but I gotta wash my hair, or I gotta strain that cabbage. Those socks aren't gonna darn themselves. So and for 2 weeks or so, he kept calling me every single day because Bevins is not the sort of guy that takes no for an answer, as I was to learn the hard way. And what started with, I think you should come in, 2 weeks down the road was, you're coming in or I'm gonna break your kneecaps with the tire iron, and you'll never walk again.
Funimation, don't mess around.
Right. Yeah, Funimation, just say it. Okay, that's so bad. Sorry. You should be watching.
I'm sorry,
so Bevins, but he politely prodded me for 2 weeks until finally said, look, just come in, just try it out. If you suck, we'll laugh, and we'll never speak of it again, so just come in. And so I finally, under protest, did, and it was a 4-hour-long audition. I had never dubbed before in my life, had no mic technique whatsoever, because all my experience was stage. And so all I could do was just kind of go to the Bevins boot camp, as it were, and let him beat me into a performer. And when we were done, confident that I had completely screwed it up and wasted an afternoon. It was a 4-hour-long audition, by the way. 4 hours long. I had no concept of an audition being that long. And I walked out going, man. And when he made me sign all these little NDAs, well, I thought they were NDAs. I didn't read them very closely, my first mistake. And I said something along the lines of, how do you people get anything done in this business? It takes you 4 hours long to audition for every single part. And he laughed and said, the audition was 5 minutes. We've actually just recorded the first 6 episodes, and you just signed a contract. So screw you, you're an actor. Be back here next Sunday. I'm like, So that is how I became an actor. And then I just started getting more work, and over a couple of years of getting a lot of roles with Funimation, I was able to go full-time as an adaptive writer, a director myself, and the rest has been uphill, downhill, whatever the
history.
History, yeah.
History looks safe.
The rest has been history. So,
okay, so I guess another question that usually comes up, especially because you do voice acting, not just normal voice acting, but you do voice acting for something that's already been recorded and done. So I guess the first question I have to ask is, do you ever look at how it was done in Japanese just to infer your performance, or do you just go blind?
Oh no, all the time. All the time we preview the Japanese. That's a big part of how we have to do it, I think, because, it's important to know what the tone is. I mean, we're trying to adapt someone else's writing, someone else's, and I'm involved in several different sides of the adaptive process. I'm in the booth as an actor. I used to direct, but I'm also an adaptive writer as well. And so I preview the Japanese frequently because that's the source material. That's what we study. And frequently, as an actor, that's all you get. When you're doing dubs, we have to do it so quickly. There's no time to rehearse. There's no time to, unless I've written the script myself. As an actor, I don't see the script when I go into the booth, or before I go into the booth. I don't see it until I'm right there in front of the mic. So all of this is just, you have to hit the ground running. And so we watch the Japanese very closely. And we don't try to imitate or emulate, because that's frankly, it's insulting to the original say. It's like, oh, I can do this better. It's more like, well, we're just going to give it our own spin, and it's just kind of give my own take on this character, but still try to be true to what you did. And so we watch the Japanese all the time. I mean, we have to, like, literally. There's not a single performance I've done where we haven't watched the Japanese with such scrutiny that it almost is a little obsessive and insane. It's what we get to know the show so well, because we watch them in the Japanese, and we watch them later when they're dubbed to be like, oh, was I amazing? No. So yeah, that's an integral part of the process, is watching the Japanese and really trying to pay homage to it.
Okay, so another thing, just because it's adapting something that's someone that was already recorded and done. Do you get much room for improvisation while recording, or do you just stick to the script?
It depends. Now, there's usually not a lot of room for improv, because you're working with pre-existing animation, and you might have this great idea for, oh my god, I want to just put this line here, but there's no flaps for it, and we can't do anything about flaps. We can't do that. It's already been animated. So if you improvise, it's usually, there have been a couple of times where something I've been saying, just goofing around in the booth. Now, I don't expect it to ever make the final cut. I'm just doing it to mess with the director or the engineer, or leave a bomb for an actor that's going to record after me, who will hear the line in his or her pre-roll. That sometimes ends up making it in because the director and the producer are thinking it's hysterical, and the Japanese licensors end up loving it as well. An example I can think of was in an episode of Dandy, Space Dandy, where Dr. Gel has been, his doppelganger appears on the ship in the last couple of minutes of the episode. It's really funny and confusing. And the original line, I don't now remember it, but it was quite funny, but I just thought it would be funny to the director if, when we came into the shot, kind of pans over to Dr. Gel, and it pans to the other Dr. Gel, and he just says, "Hello, sexy." And I thought it would be funny, and Joel, who was directing me that day, thought it was hysterical, and like, no, we're keeping that. Don't even give me a real version. That's the one that made it in, and I was so happy. So things like that happen every now and again, but as a rule, not terribly often, because it's hard to improv when the animation is already set.
Okay, that works. You answer more questions in one
I
answer.
I talk a lot. I get paid to do this. I get paid to talk. So I have breath control, but not a lot of content control. What comes out, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I guess another thing, just because I as a fan and everything else have looked at the process of voice acting and how it's done and how they do it different. Like some people do it solo, some people do other people in the room. Do you have a chance to do either one more than the other? When dubbing, most of it that I've done has been independently. Like you do it one-on, just you in the booth, and sometimes you do it in a complete vacuum where you're the first person recording a particular scene between, like, say, you and 4 other people. But you're the first one to lay down track, and so you're by yourself, and you're like, hi guys, I hope you like what I did. Because then they have to add the other actors that come in. I've only done a few projects, anime related, that there were several actors in the booth at once, and that's a kind of session we call a Walla session, like Walla, Washington, but it stands for with all actors. And in the old days, when I used to do Walla sessions, now I don't anymore because there isn't time. It's fun because you have usually 4 actors, sometimes as many as 6, go in the booth, and
we improv stuff for like the background chatter. Let's say there's a scene in a cafe, there's a lot of people in the background, well, you need that. So Funimation gets a bunch of actors in and just have them all on their own mics, their own headphones, and we'll all just kind of chat and just talk and things. And I used to, as a director, I used to do that all through Romeo and Juliet, which is a project I got to work on with Marcus Elliott, starring Rita Valencia and Chris Burnett, which was great fun to work on. I was also in the dub. I didn't cast myself, but I was also in the dub. But I put myself in the Wallace sessions because I love directing Wallace. You have so many people, it becomes like a home room pizza party. It becomes absurd. You have to rein everybody in constantly because it gets out of hand and whatever. But I would always put myself in, and I would make sure, just for the sheer fun of it, I would make sure to drop plot spoilers into the background dialogue, that if you were listening very, very, very closely, you know that someone was going to die in the next scene, like because you're like, oh, you know, Mercutio is actually going to die in this next scene. That's crazy. But I mean, you never actually hear it unless you knew to look for it. But I just love.
And now everyone on the internet is going to look for it.
Right. So yeah. Was that? I don't even remember what the question was now.
Just whether you could do solo or with people more often.
Oh, it's mostly solo.
I guess another question, just because of the acting, is: do you actually find yourself playing roles where you feel like you can easily get into that head, and then you have some roles where it's like, this is the complete opposite of me?
Sometimes a little bit of both, actually. I think as I've done more and more, I find that characters that I often the reverse tends to be true. Characters that I look at at first blush, I think, oh, I got this. I totally understand him. And then as we get going, I realize, no, he's actually a little more alien to me than I thought. He's got depth to him that I wasn't ready for. And then sometimes a character that at first blush completely alienates me, and I'm just like, why did you pick me for this part? I do not think that I'm right for this. And as we get going, I'll suddenly realize, oh no, I get this, and I understand him. So it happens a lot with acting that you just kind of learn that, you know, somewhere inside of you is this character. Somewhere inside
every actor.
Somewhere inside of you is a world domination hungry madman who's willing to, you know, kill everybody to get his goals. And somewhere inside of me there's a magical little monster shaped like an octopus somewhere whose job is to float around and protect the magical girl in the heart. I mean, somewhere, it's true. Somewhere inside of me there's that creature. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but I mean, it's true. So that's the appeal of acting, you know, is to kind of get away from yourself, but then in so doing find out that, oh no, I was wrong all along. That's a very Oz moment. Wizard of Oz, not the prison drama Oz. That's what would that mean?
Wait for that crossover. Okay, I guess another question. I guess you've done not just only anime. You've done other things. I'm guessing video games as well.
Video games, commercial work,
Western animation even. Not yet.
Not yet, because I'm still based in Dallas, and there's not a lot of original 3D animation being done there. Most of it's a lot of video game work, but most of it's in the Dallas area. It's mostly like commercial VO
and imported stuff.
Which is nice.
Okay, what would be your dream role?
My dream role? Like, does it have to already exist, or do I get to make it up?
Take your pick, man.
I don't know. There's so many. I mean, I'm a big Shakespeare nut. Huge, like, Shakespeare nut. Like, I'm an infuriating Shakespeare nut. The kind of guy, I will kill someone over Shakespeare. Like, you know, he didn't write it, and I'll flip the table. But I love Shakespeare, and any chance to, like, play the principal roles in Shakespeare would be great. I would love to, you know, anything. I'd love to play Hamlet. I would love to play Macbeth.
Please don't say Titus. Please don't say Titus.
No, the good plays.
I like Titus, but it's like I don't want to imagine you like chopping people up with
I would love to play. I'd love to play Iago. I'd love to play Iago from Othello. Great villain. Really one of the best. Kind of, he set the trend for villains in
Shakespeare.
Western literature as a whole. Like, most of the great villains in literature and entertainment come from. Yeah, they all have their great grandpappy is Iago, really. So I think, yeah, let's go with that. I want to play Iago.
Play Iago at one point.
Yeah, I would love to. Oh my god.
Okay, what's the strangest line you've ever had to say that wasn't your own improvisation?
The strangest line? I don't know. I have a pretty high threshold for strange. So what
What do you think would shock everyone over there or on the other side of the
I
screen?
think the weirdest. I think weirdest because it's not. I don't know. It's all like out of context. It's well. I guess out of context, it's still kind of weird too. I suppose the line "What is it now, Daddy?" that Kyoya has to say to Tamaki at some point in Oran. It was really difficult. It was really funny because I read it and my first thought is, oh, he's being tarnish. He's being sexy. He's just doing this to goad Tamaki. And Caitlin Glass, the show's director, also played Haruki, was just kind of like, no, it has to just be straightforward. It's really it's just their nickname for each other. And I'm like, really? How do I don't know how to say this line like that. What is it now, Daddy? And I kept, every time, it must have been like a dozen takes, and she was like, nope, still too sexy. I'm like, ah! So that line has imprinted itself on me as one of the most difficult experiences in the movie. I'd look out, and Caitlin would be on the floor laughing, because she's like, you can't do this. You can't do this and not make it sound like you're coming on to him. I'm like, I can't, I don't know. I'm sorry. Recast me. I'm not right for this role. But yeah, I think What Is It Now, Daddy will always kind of... There have been others, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
Okay, this has been J. Michael Tatum at Fanime Con 2014, and possibly one of the most fun interviews I've had lately. And I guess that's pretty much it. So I'm going to keep covering the convention, and you guys enjoy yourselves at Marooner's Rock, where to geek out would be an awfully big adventure. Woo!